Hi guys, so today we are on part 3 of our sleep basics training. I really hope you've enjoyed part 1 and 2. If you haven't watched them, you can go back and watch them. The first one is all about the 4 pillars. The second one, we are looking at personality and temperament profiling, which sounds really complicated, but it's not. It's actually really fun and really interesting. Today, we are talking about the biggest elephant in the room of sleep, which is sleep training. So we call it sleep teaching. You might have heard of that. Sleep training, self-settling, independent sleep, doesn't really matter. But it's really controversial to some people. And it depends kind of what tribe you fall into. But my attitude and approach to sleep teaching is that there is no one way to do it. Every baby is different. And there's also an approach and a method and a strategy for everybody. So at the sleep method, for example, I'll work with families who literally don't care if it takes a year, who want no crying at all. Then I'll work with other families who are going back to work in a few weeks and they just need a really quick strategy. And this does go hand in hand with personality profiling and your 4 pillars. So you can't really look at sleep teaching until you've got your 4 pillars in place, and not until you understand what kind of personality your little one has, because that does really dictate often the best methods to use. We're not going to talk too much in depth about the different methods, but I thought I would talk to you about some of the biggest fears around sleep teaching. And the first is something called the cry it out method. So cry it out actually originates from an American doctor called Marcus Weisbluth, and actually his book we don't use his method at all, and I train sleep coaches. So we have a training school for new sleep coaches, and within that, part of their reading list is his book. And the reason his book is in there is not because of the method, but because of this science he uses in there around sleep is really very good. But his method is also known as the extinction method, and it's where you leave your baby to sleep, and they will cry, but you don't go back in at all. So you literally don't go in. I think as long as you're being responsive, we can work on sleep. So we don't use that method because it pretty much just means we're not being responsive. But we want to be responsive when we work on sleep. And that looks different for everybody. So the sort of methods that are going to help you feel, well, it doesn't really matter. So some families, we use methods where they are in the room and they are supporting their baby quite physically, and they're being there, they're being really present. Others, if they're quite independent, they actually need a little bit of space. So some babies and parents, they kind of work on a popping in, popping out process. The point really is that there's a lot of judgment around self-settling and independent sleep, and there are a lot of people who think it can't be taught. I think it can be taught, and I think babies show us when they're ready to sleep a bit more independently. And these are so useful to know because sleep is always changing. So what works at 4 months won't work at 18 months, and what works at 18 months probably won't work at 7 years old. And that's not because your baby has changed in lots of different dramatic ways. It just means that as they get older, their sleep needs change. So what works really well for a newborn doesn't work for a baby from 4 months to 12 months, because newborns need a lot of physical contact, they need rocking, they need motion, but actually around 4 months they go through a big transformation and they start sleeping in a very different way. And from here, those methods of rocking, patting, shushing, often this is when parents come and they say, sleep was going actually quite well, and now they just won't sleep. All the methods I try, they just don't work. So there's some really good ways for you to figure out if your baby is ready for independent sleep. And I would totally go with your baby. So some babies, they're ready at 4 months, some it's 8 months, some it's 18 months. It's really about getting a gut feel for, yeah, do you know what, I think they're ready, and not worrying too much yet if they're not quite there. Worst thing you can do is kind of force yourself into doing something you don't really want to do because everyone else is doing it. And I think sleep is an area that we can do that. Like we go to mum baby groups and we're like, oh, what's your baby doing? And then mine isn't doing that. And we get home and we're like, trying to do that and we're trying to change things. really we want to tap into, you know, your instinct, and you will have a really good instinct about this stuff, even if you don't think you do. So some signs that your baby is ready to sleep more independently include rocking, motion, all those amazing methods suddenly not working as well, and they might take longer. So it could go from 5 minutes to half an hour of rocking instead. And then when you do get them to bed, often they wake up more frequently. So they might wake up 40 minutes after you put them down. You're getting a lot more early evening wake ups. You also get a lot more bedtime battles and bedtime resistance. So a lot more arching. Arching is a really interesting one. So anytime a client says to me that their baby, they're hugging them at bedtime and they're arching away from them, I'm thinking probably they're getting ready to sleep a bit differently, maybe a bit more independently. But also you get a lot more nighttime wakings, because suddenly that baby is getting frustrated, they're waking up, they need your help potentially to get back to sleep, but actually it doesn't work for them anymore, they just don't know another way. So there's lots of different ways there that you can kind of spot if independent sleep is something your little one is ready for. And from there, you really want to pick a strategy that you feel like you can stick to. So we talked about this back in training 1 about the 4 pillars. We talked about consistency. This is where you as parents need to really think about what's going to work for you, what you feel you can comfortably do for 7 days, but also what's going to benefit your baby the most. And every parent is different, and that is where that one-to-one coaching is quite helpful, because we can like hash that stuff out. But otherwise, I think the best thing you can do is sit down. If you've got a partner, talk to them about it, you know, be a team about it. If it's just you, so my husband, he's a wonderful husband, but he's not here very much, and he wasn't here very much when I was trying to figure out the sleep. So he was really supportive by saying, whatever you think is right, that's what we'll do. And that is incredibly supportive. But it's kind of on me at the time. I quite liked it being on me. I felt like I could deal with it actually better. And every dynamic at home is different, and yours might be different to mine as well. So the first thing when it comes to sleep training, sleep teaching, whatever you want to call it, is actually to figure out if your baby is ready. And don't worry if they're not ready yet, because the time will come. And I think it's much better to wait for them to be ready than to rush them. You know, I've definitely had people in the past say to me, sort of, my baby's 3 months, I want them to start sleeping through the night, can we do some sleep training? And we would never recommend, I definitely wouldn't recommend sleep training before 4.5 months probably, and only if a baby is showing the signs. So you really want to make sure you're getting those signs before you start looking at more independent sleep. But also, independent sleep does not have to be leaving babies to cry. It could be just popping them down a little bit more awake. It could be popping them in their cot and kind of sitting with them for a bit and just seeing, and if they cry, you pick them back up. It doesn't have to be a really set format. I think the key thing is you're being responsive. So if you pop out of the room for a minute and they get really upset, you just come back in again. The more you do that, the more you build up trust with your little one. And trust is incredibly important, and it doesn't really matter what age, they need to be able to trust you. So you always want to be responsive where you can, but it is okay to give them a little bit of space if that's what you need and what's better for them as well. You know, not every parent can sit by a bed waiting for their baby to fall asleep for an hour. Some people, that's like the most natural thing in the world. For others, it's like, I might not have time because I've got older siblings I need to sort out, but also it's just not your bag, and that is totally fine. For me, it's all about you finding a method that works for you and not worrying about what other people think. There's so much judgment around sleep and how you do things. You know, I've had clients who literally felt like they couldn't talk to their toddler, like their baby groups, about having a sleep coach because they felt so judged by doing that. And some of those clients actually had medical conditions that made it really hard for them to carry their little ones. So everyone has their own reason for doing something, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting more sleep for your baby and wanting more sleep for yourself. It's really not selfish to want more sleep. There's some research, and if I can find the link, I'll share it. And it was about parents, and I can't remember the percentage, it was really high though. basically a lot of parents said that they didn't feel, because they were so sleep deprived, they didn't feel they could be the responsive parents they wanted to be. So it's all great, let's say, like, let's be super like there, we can't leave our babies at all. But actually, if you need more sleep and popping in and out of the room for a bit while your baby falls asleep, it's not going to make you a bad parent, and it doesn't make you unresponsive. You're still being responsive, you're still being there. You're just giving yourself and your little one a little bit of space. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just like there's nothing wrong with the parent who wants to co-sleep for the first year or two. Everyone is different, and that's exciting. We all need to be different, but we shouldn't see sleep teaching as something to be feared or scared about. It's literally just helping your baby sleep in a different way. I truly believe every baby comes to a point where they need help in a different way to what we were doing before, because they all get older and they all need different things from us. So actually, yes, when you were rocking to sleep, your baby needed you, but actually now your baby is sleeping in their cot and they need to just know you're there. They need to know you're coming in and out. They also still need you. They just need you in a different way. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a bit more about sleep teaching and those signs that your baby is ready to sleep more independently. They're really, really important. And we talk about all our different sleep strategies within our Sleep SOS program. So it's our amazing parent program. It's all bite-sized chunks. It's there for you to just literally go through everything you need in really manageable chunks. And you can dive into the bits that you need. So you've already done the personality profiling, which is great, but you can then go in and pick your sleep strategies, the ones that are going to work for you, and you can create your own plan for you and your family, which is really, really exciting. And you're going to benefit so much from it, because you're going to get more sleep, you're going to feel more rested and more confident, so much more confident in the choices you're making around sleep. So that is, again, the link is down below this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back really soon, and I hope you have a great day wherever you are. Take care. Bye.